Hello, everybody. Looks like we made it to the last night of the semester. Um, Quick reminder, the exams are on a calendar schedule, not the same schedule as the homework. So exams are due Saturday. I think over half the people in the class have already turned those in. So thank you for getting that quickly instead of waiting to the last minute. Otherwise, the semester ends on Sunday. So if you have any past due homework or anything, please make sure you get that to me by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Monday mornings, I wake up early in the morning and I wake up and start grading. And I usually have grades submitted by like 7 o'clock in the morning. So make sure you get everything to me by midnight on Sunday. Anything still to turn in. Oh, there's Ethan. Hi, Ethan. Right before you came in, I was just reminding everybody that remember the exam is on a different schedule than the homework. Exams are on a calendar schedule, so the exam is due Saturday. And otherwise, any homework, whether past due or current homework, is due by 11:59 on Sunday. That's when the course officially ends. Otherwise, lecture and stuff will end tonight. It'll probably be kind of a short night. I just wanted to talk about a couple things. Because, well, it's IT. There's way more to talk about than we could possibly fit in an 8-week semester. And we could stand here for 6 hours a day speaking like an auctioneer and not cover everything in IT. So I had to narrow it down some. There was one thing that I did want to talk about. I'll write the name out. Customer. Well, I should write it out first. I can say it a lot quicker than I can write it. Software. So, customer relationship management software. On my way through school, I kept seeing this defined in textbooks, and they never really said much more than it exists. Like a lot of textbooks they'd have the sentence, customer relationship management usually has the acronym CRM. And then they move on and talk about something else. So from all of the places it showed up, like many textbooks that it showed up in, it didn't seem like something that was all that important. Then after graduation, get out in the real world and discover that a lot of businesses face their entire industry, not even the sole company, the entire industry is based off of CRM software. The decisions are based off what's in there. So it can be fairly important software. A lot of schools, like this one, for example, would do that. Use the customer relationship management software. It shows up in lots of places. Help desk, a lot of help desks, if anybody's heading into the IT support degree, use CRM software to manage all the tickets and stuff. If you remember way back at the beginning of the semester, one of the things I pointed out is on your way through school, try to keep the business perspective in mind. The goal of a business is always to continue doing business. If you seek that goal, then the profits will come. There's an ebb and flow to everything, so ebb and flow to profits. So you have to focus on continuing to do business. So obviously the relationship with customers is one of the most critical things of that. I'll just share some pictures and stuff. It'll be kind of a short night, so we'll go through this quickly. It's definitely something you want to look into. Maybe I'll just look up open source CRM software. It's already predicting what I was going to do. So there's a couple here at the top. My recommendation, anytime you look up stuff like this, they're right near the top. Look for those best of lists. Like if you're looking for a text editor, that's something everybody in IT is going to need. Look for the best of list and read through that blog, because then you'll see things you didn't know about it to begin with. You'll see all the stuff that you want to look the features you want to look for, or little tips and tricks along the way of what needs to be there instead of just looking for a particular one. So I recommend always starting with those. Right now. Try that one more time. See if the site. Nope, I think that site's down. Okay, let me try a different best of list. That's open source. So, oh, notice where this one's coming from. So from Forbes. So y'all probably have heard the name Forbes, right? The common name in the business world. So they take it's important enough for them to look into this. Salesforce, I'll talk about that one in a moment. Any of these, that doesn't have to list. This time, I don't know what was wrong a moment ago. These I've seen before. So here's some open source ones. Since you're heading into IT, to the world at large, open source usually means free. That's what people think about. But open source, if you're an IT person, open source really means open source code. So you don't just have to download that software and work with whatever constraints are there. You can download the source code for that software and customize it to fit your needs perfectly. HubSpot's a pretty good one to start with. So one way to think about these is a supercharged contact list. So like sales representatives traditionally, they would have all of their information about their contacts and leads about the particular contacts, the things they would need to know. That's something that's shown up in a lot of comedy shows where salespeople would get the leads wrong and stuff and be remembering the wrong facts or misread their notes and bring up a point they were supposed to avoid with a particular customer and act like they're old friends and stuff. All of that stuff put in the contact list. Or one way to think about it is your database. Instead of sticking it in tables like we saw when we looked at databases and spreadsheets and all of that, make your model more like a contact list so that your entire data set for your industry is based around your particular customer. A more useful format for it. Again, I like to mention it because on my way through school, I saw a lot of textbooks that said it exists, but they never really said anything much more about it. Then get out in the world and discover that a lot of businesses base every single decision they make off of what the CRM software says. So this is like a free one. The HubSpot's a pretty good one to get started with. It's kind of like a contact list. You can organize stuff, notes, charts. Something to look into, basically, is make sure you look into this. Oh, Monday, you all probably have seen ads for Monday and not really knowing what it was, right? Monday is a customer relationship management software. You reorganize all of your stuff. You can see from the pictures here, the clients, the deals that they're making. And instead of that table format, all the data is structured around the customer, centralized around the customer. And a better way to approach that. Lots and lots of different ones. We can click on here and kind of see if I can download it, if I can install this and look at it. So this one's free. Yeah, create a free account. Try to use Google. Let's see if I can install this real quick. I've had it installed before, but do I have to do all this? Yeah, I guess I have to fill this out. Education, higher education, that'll work. It's gonna make me fill all this out to get to it, I guess. Pick a random number. Why is all this necessary? Put my own site in here. Put the school site in something I'm going to delete very, very shortly. Yeah, but a good way to start thinking about it is the contact list, but a very pumped up, supercharged contact list. They're very, very useful software for other things. Let's do that. I was expecting just some software I could download. Some of the other ones have something I can just download. Probably not. This probably isn't going to be a quick thing to set up. Let me see if any of these have just something to download. Let's try it for you. Probably this one. Well, y'all know what a contact list looks like. Go with that. Yeah, they do not. It takes a minute to set up that software. We can't just install it quickly. I was hoping to do something in under 5 minutes. Is what I was thinking about, but I didn't really click ahead of here to see it. I guess I'll just go through here. Choose the appearance so you don't get bored when you look at it, all the fancy themes and stuff like that. We can skip that and just go to get started. Okay, so it looks something like this. So we have this person. Another very common usage is to use this sort of software for your help desk tickets. So instead of the person might be, instead of people in there, you'd have machines in the office. You'd have your, if you think about it like a contact list, you'd have all of that stuff in there. So we get the little names, and then we get all sorts of information about it, everything that's ever happened between them and stuff. So very, very useful for like help desk tickets, because then instead of a person, it's a machine. So you know everything that's ever gone wrong with that machine. Somebody submits a help desk ticket, you're like, oh, that's the same thing that broke last week. It must be a bad wire or something that went unnoticed. All the contact stuff, but it extends it gets quite extensive afterwards. All of the other contacts that would go through a person for like the sales representative thing, all the past deals, and basically the entire business history, only a different structure for it. It's kind of what is going on there, and the name says it all. Very important thing for businesses is just how do you manage the relationships you have with all your customers? Because a happy customer is worth more than a few dollars, right? It's like, what if something goes wrong with your pizza? It's pretty standard to call them up and say something went wrong with the pizza, and you get a free one, and a free one will show up at your door in a few minutes. Because a happy customer is worth way more than a few dollars that you could make. So that sort of idea, and they're very, very common for help desk tickets. Has anybody ever had to submit a help desk ticket here at Ivy Tech? If you ever have to, it's based off a CRM known as ServiceNow. It's one of the more popular ones for doing that. One of the biggest ones is what's known as Salesforce. Anybody ever heard of that before? They're a big company. Salesforce. They might have some good pictures or something here. I was expecting pictures and advertisements here, but they're the biggest, so they don't really have to advertise much. But large customer relationship management software, which also makes a nice little segue into the next thing that I was going to talk about to fill up about half an hour this evening. Coming back to Ivy Tech, keep an eye on that stuff. Check out a few and maybe start filling them out with just little test examples and stuff, because in general, it'll get mentioned in a number of classes, but you may not necessarily see it in much detail in most of the classes. However, there is a whole degree on that here. So I'm going to go over to Google and look for Ivy Tech catalog. Have y'all ever look at this? So the entire catalog of all the courses, make sure everybody knows how to find that. It's part of the aspect of this course, which is that survey aspect. Go in here. This button that says programs up at the top goes to ivytech.edu. So don't click that button. That did me off a few times at first. The green button on the side that says programs shows all the different programs. So with like CRM software, go to Informatics. Part of the thing about this course was surveying all the different degree programs. So I'll start with the one that has the same name. So there is a Salesforce Administrator CT degree. So 18 credit hour degree focused specifically on CRM software, because it is very, very important to the world. This one does run here at Sellersburg. Or starting in the fall, I'm going to make sure these courses are scheduled every semester so that anybody that wants that degree can get it. It's hard to stress enough how important that turns out to be in the real world, but it's something customizable. Like, I look up that page, it's just not, I'll go back over here to the, maybe this one, and look at the ads. Start scrolling down, you can kind of see some of the stuff. We can take notes, do things, and this will probably, oh, I don't see an ad for it. Maybe one of the others on that page would have it. That page is way down there. There it is. I didn't realize I clicked on that many other pages since then. I believe CRM has it on their ads. Oh, they don't have it. Okay, this one, if I don't see the picture, I'll just talk about it. No, I don't see a picture that relates to it. So we can also, these also come with their own programming languages. So they are fully customizable. So that's part of the reason it doesn't really show up in classes much, is because everybody's going to use it differently. I compared it to a contact list to get started, but also mentioned IT help desk regularly use it, and then the contact information, the customers in their version is usually every machine they have in their office, and all the information about that, all the IP addresses instead of email addresses and things like that. So everybody's going to customize it. So learning it in detail is really a full degree. So like 18 credit hours, not run every time. But one of the things for this course was just surveying the different programs here. I think everybody's in a different one, a different pathway. So if we look at a few of the ones for School of IT, make sure you know where you're headed. Good idea to have this list around. So cybersecurity was the first one on the list alphabetically. ASs are usually for transferring. So we click on the AS, start scrolling, you'll notice there's a whole lot of general education. education on this one. A whole lot of general education, and then way down at the bottom is we get to just a handful of IT courses. So that's the associate, regular associate degree. Then we also have the AAS, the Associate of Applied Science. This is the one, the workforce ready one. So if we look at this one, so instead of heading to a 4-year school, this is more for people who want to head out into the workforce. So a very short list of general education, 6 classes instead of having to scroll and move my fingers back down to the beginning to scroll 3 times to get past the general education. And then we get into a whole bunch of cybersecurity and other IT courses. So make sure you know how to find that list for whatever program you're on, and all of the list in general. Make sure you're looking at the program that is best suited for you. I like to say is happiness is worth a lot. The lowest paying field of IT still pays pretty well. So if you really, really love what you do and you get a decent paycheck, that makes a big difference. The highest paying field of IT is usually data analytics. Has the highest starting pay and the highest median pay, and not just for Southern Indiana. That is the worldwide. That's worldwide. It's often called the oil of the 21st century. Big data equates directly to big money. So the data analytics stuff usually has the highest starting pay and the highest median pay. Excluding those outliers where somebody like invents a new protocol that suddenly makes them $10 million 1 year, that throws off all the averages and stuff. But those exist. But for just general working career, in data analytics, ASAT, AS, I thought this was the GSAT. Quick on them. The AS is kind of for transferring, so it has a lot of general education because you get all of those out of the way before transferring to a 4-year school. Because classes at Ivy Tech are a lot cheaper than at most 4-year schools around. It's sort of that data analytics CT this is another one that there seems to be inconsistencies on lists. Some of the lists show Sellersburg is having this course, and some of them is not having this course. So I did go ahead and draw up a completion guide and start scheduling the courses for this because I couldn't track down a straight answer on whether or not I was supposed to or not. So I just went ahead and did so because there's overlap with other classes anyway. You'll see this course in every single one of the programs here. Everybody has to take Informatics 109, and everybody has to take SF 120. A couple of programs did drop DBMS 110. Most people still have to take it, but a couple of them got so long that they dropped it because it pushed them above 64 credit hours. But at the same time, all the programs that dropped that want to work it back in. Like it dropped from the cybersecurity AAS because it pushed them up to 65 credit hours. So they dropped that one, but at the same time, the data is what cybersecurity experts are protecting. So they should probably know a little bit about it in order to protect it. At least that introduction class. So that one might be worked back in there, but those 3 are the general, you'll see in all the things. Data visualization and analysis, that's going to start running in the fall here. I'll probably run every semester because business people will also take that. That's the really advanced stuff. We saw that in a discussion board, right? Making charts, but that can get pretty advanced pretty quickly, and we can make really, really nice charts. And we want to know how to do that really, really well, no matter what our data set's like. So data analytics is usually the highest paying one. As informatics is next alphabetical. So if I go to informatics, this one's a PSAT. On some of the programs, you will see this right here. It'll say PSAT, which they don't even write out what the acronym actually stands for because nobody's going to remember that. It means transfer as a junior. So if the degree says PSAT, and then that's all on AS degrees, the associate degrees that are kind of intended to transfer anyway, instead of the other college taking it course by course and deciding what they'll accept and what they won't, which does there is wiggle room around. Like when I finished at Ivy Tech and went to IUS, they accepted all of the courses, but they accepted them as undistributed computer science courses. And I still had to take Introduction to Computer Science in order to graduate. It actually delayed my graduation because I argued about it for so long. It's 32 credit hours of undistributed computer science. So if you are transferring, be prepared for the back and forth. And sometimes they're willing to work with you. Some schools, most schools will be willing to work with you, but some will be very hard set in their ways. Sometimes you'll be at a school like, I think the problem when I had it was IUS is a satellite school. So all those decisions are made from Bloomington. So all the people I could communicate with locally, they had orders come down from the central office, so they couldn't really do anything about it. But I argued about it for so long, it delayed my graduation of the bachelor's degree. Be prepared for that if you're on one of the just regular ASs, that they're going to look course by course, and you have to sit there and discuss with them and debate on what the course covered and whether that's going to transfer in. But if the degree says PSAT, then you will come in as a junior to that 4-year school. So if you're planning on transferring to a 4-year school, make sure you're in one of the programs that says PSAT. And that way you come in your 3rd year instead of going through the list course by course and having to debate with them over whether or not that course should be transferred in to cover something. Because believe me, that does get a little frustrating when you're doing that. And this is the informatics one. So yeah, it's for transfer. So there's a huge gen ed section and then some IT at the bottom. Right after that, informatics AAS. I like to point people towards this one. We look at the Salesforce administrator. CRM software, no matter where you're heading in the world, this will be important for you. I can tell you that for absolute certain. At the very least, your team will be using CRM software to consolidate the team together. But some businesses base every decision the business makes on what the CRM software says. So there's that. That's one of the 18 credit hour degrees, the CTs, which I have heard where they're going to change the name of that to short-term degree, so it doesn't get confused with the certificates. In IT, that gets very confusing because we have so many certifications, and then we have our 18 credit hour CT degree, kind of the names blend together. So this one, if you're ever feeling indecisive, you're not sure about your program, you're not sure what to do, this is the one I like to point people towards, or people that have just heard a lot that they should be coming to college, they don't know what they should be doing here. Informatics AAS, so it's getting workforce ready, some gen ed, and then a nice, well, kind of like our course. Informatics is taking IT, and instead of studying theory, like in cybersecurity, you're going to study the theory of cybersecurity stuff. In software development, you're going to study the theory about putting software together. Computer science is just purely theory. It has science right in the name. But you study the theoretical version a lot. Informatics is about making those theories applicable and useful. So we study a broad spectrum of things. So computer information, cybersecurity, databases, informatics itself, IT support, networking, software development, a little bit of everything. And then you choose another elective of a little bit of everything. And the reason I really like to point this one towards people is the Informatics AAS then follows it up with you take a track from another school. So you would have that IT knowledge and then study accounting so that you could go apply that IT knowledge in an accounting situation or a business situation. Or criminal justice or right into healthcare. So whenever people kind of change their mind, I like to point them towards this, or the people that have just heard over and over again they should come to school and they don't really know what they're doing. I feel very confident that in our modern world, you can just say, yeah, it's wherever you're heading, IT is going to be a heavy point of that. So this degree gets that base level IT knowledge, the useful one before you dive into the higher level classes where it gets more theoretical. The low level classes, you're doing stuff, and then the high level classes, you're just thinking about the stuff and concepts and theories. And then it goes into another school so that it can get the IT, and then you're already started into a criminal justice track per se, or started into an accounting track. So you're already part of the way towards another degree and learning about the field where you're going to apply. That's a really useful degree. If anybody ever feels uncertain about what they're doing, that would be my first recommendation. Just look into transition thing, or if you're not really sure why you're at school to begin with, that's a good one to look into. What else is software development? Oh, wait, IT support. Information. Some people really, really like hardware. Notice there's not an AS. Hardware is purely an application thing. We don't study a lot of theory about hardware. The theory about hardware is electrical engineering, not IT. So the IT support program is all about that. So certificate, make sure you're perfectly ready to work at help desk, technology support, and apply. It is direct application of the stuff. So a lot of hands-on things, certifications. Yeah, so a short list of a little bit of everything again, some cybersecurity, some database, some software development, server admin, netty, and then you get down to the electives, choose some electives, and then down here is a bunch of certifications. And if you're heading into IT support, it is all about the certifications. Hardware is all about the certifications. So similar thing for cybersecurity. Anybody heading towards cybersecurity? It's all about the certifications. So on this list, choose 3 out of these 5. But if you're heading into IT support, if you can afford an extra 1 credit hour class or 2, it would definitely be beneficial to go ahead and grab all 5 certifications instead of just picking 3 of them. Because hardware is all about certifications. A similar thing for cybersecurity. We'll go back to that here. Security. Cybersecurity is all over the place, but it kind of lends itself more towards hardware, network operations, security. Yeah, it generally gets categorized more in the hardware side. So certifications count for a lot. And like in the elective, says choose, which one? Oh yeah, this section. So it says choose 2 of these 3 certifications, but if you're heading down that pathway and can afford an extra 1 credit hour class, it would probably be worth your while to just go ahead and grab all 3 of them. Cybersecurity people do call that the trifecta, the CompTIA trifecta. If you're heading in cybersecurity, you want all 3 of those certifications. Yep. You need 2 to graduate, and it's 1 credit hour to get the other one. So at the very least, it forces you to take the proper amount of time to study for the certification exam. On the software side, certifications don't count for quite as much. Experience counts for more. It's a language, right? Just like English. The longer you speak it, the better you're going to be at speaking it. Same thing with programming. The longer you use that language, the better you're going to get it. The more you use that language, the more you're going to get at it. But really, software, it's all about the skills. And hardware, you have to prove that you have the knowledge. Because the skills are like cables, right? Lots of people can plug and unplug cables, but the certification proves that you know which cables should be plugged and unplugged, and you're not going to break things by unplugging the wrong cable. So it counts for a lot more on that side. Software development. I guess I haven't clicked on this one yet. Is that all? Oh, network infrastructure, I guys had in there. Some people really like cables, just like IT support. There's not an AS, there's not a one designed to transfer to another school afterwards. Because if you're studying network infrastructure, it's because you're going to go out and get a job managing a network. dealing with cables and all of that. Routing and switching is the 18 credit hour one that would get you a job very, very quickly. So if you're looking to quickly grab credits and get a good job under network infrastructure, the routing and switching certificate, it's an 18 credit hour CT, a 16 credit hour CT, which to do 16 credit hours in one semester would be exhausting, but that is below the level where you'd have to ask for permission to take that many credit hours. So it'd be quick, and this gets you ready to go manage a network very, very quick. So that's the go get a high-paying job immediately, and then you can continue education later, because after you get a degree, it's a lot easier to pay for classes. It's rough paying for classes on the first degree, right? They're expensive. But when you're out there making really, really good IT money, then the cost of one course a semester just for something to do in the evenings and continue learning, because there's so much to learn. Interesting things to learn, like the lifelong learning idea. When you're making really good money, it's easy to do that. Easy to just buy another course, but routing and switching CT, these 16 credit hours are probably the quickest way to go get a very, very high paying job. Because it's 2023. I guarantee you, every building in America needs an expert or two, at least one expert in the building on this topic. So there's plenty of work on it, and it doesn't take long to build up the knowledge and practical skills. Like, it's 121 here, yeah, like this one. This is the course. It costs a lot to teach this course. This is the one where like you solder connecting fiber optic cable together. Fuse, that's the word. Where you have to fuse fiber optic cable connections, as well as pulling Ethernet through a wall. Like, we have a fake wall downstairs that is like 6 foot wide, 6 foot tall, so it's not quite as tall as a full wall, and then about 4 foot over of a ceiling. And you have to, and then there's a little metal box in that ceiling part, and you have to pull the cables through there and hook them into the box up top without damaging the drywall or the really soft drop ceilings. And hands-on, a really fun class. I never took that class, but that one does kind of sound like fun, right? Like, actually get in there and do that stuff. And but a quick way to that's a good one to get a degree. But again, the network infrastructure, you'll notice there's not a transfer degree. NETI and IT support you're heading out to the world to actually work as an IT person and get good paying money quick. Software development and cybersecurity are the two most popular degrees by far. That's what everybody wants to do. One or the other, and it kind of alternates between which one is more popular semester to semester, and usually not by much. Like, across the state of Indiana, the software development and cybersecurity are usually within a dozen students of which one's more popular than the other. So really, it's like those two programs make up about 98% of the School of IT, and then some other people come along for the other programs. But there's lots of them there. Make sure you're in the one that fits your personality, what you want to do. You're not locked in place. As you look through the catalog, you'll notice there's a lot of overlap. Things, cybersecurity, well, there's a few classes that everybody has to take, but there's a lot more overlap than just that. The Cloud Foundations class, I think almost everybody takes that these days. Database, basic cybersecurity, just about everybody takes that. And there's a lot of overlap, so you can also, if at some point you feel like you're not in the right spot for your personality, those classes do apply to other programs and things too. In School of IT, or that informatics one I pointed at. That's where I always, whenever people are feeling indecisive or people that don't really know what they're looking for, I usually point them towards this, because every field needs IT people working in it. So learn IT and then some basics of other fields is a good place to start. I wanted to make sure everybody knew where that was. Look at all the programs for School of IT. We've got quite a few. Did I miss any? Is it cybersecurity? data, informatics, IT support, Netty, SDev. I did miss one. Actually, I missed two, didn't I? Oh, IoT. That's a new program. So there are Internet of Things degrees. I don't see it on the list. And server administration, I did skip that as well. Take server admin on here. Well, there are two degrees I don't see on here. I guess that's why I skipped them. What if I look at next year's? Well, we'll talk about that for a minute. Y'all can look at the catalog and you can change the year. So it should go off the year you started. So if you're ever wondering like how many courses you have left and stuff, make sure you choose the year you started your program. Look in here, is IoT in here? Oh, cloud technologies. It's a subset of cloud technologies. So a degree entirely in cloud, doing cloud stuff. We looked at that briefly. The world is very quickly moving that way. It gives us local software solutions, and then there's experts handling the hardware in just a few spots around the world, and we pay for usage. So a lot of people like that one. Pay server admin on this degree either. I'll have to look into why there's one that doesn't seem to be on there. So there's all, make sure you know where to find all the courses that you would take and stuff. Does everybody know how to register for courses? Is everybody registered for courses? Schedule builder, talking to advisors, familiar with all that stuff. Let me do this. You go over to Ivy Learn and just tie back into this one point, and then I guess we can wrap up pretty quick here. But I want to stress how important this stuff is. So if I could jump over to Ivy Learn, and we're working through the course, right? Going through a module, doing all the homework, all that normal stuff that you used to, and you suddenly hit a big problem that you know is it's something on their end, right? This site's messed up, something's wrong. Over here at the resources, there at the very bottom, there's submit an Ivy Tech help desk ticket, which jumps over to my Ivy. I just had to go through there. You're all more likely to see it there than any of the other systems. And then we can submit an IT and Ivy Learn help desk ticket. And right now we are still on a particular CRM, which is going to switch over to Salesforce soon. This summer, we're starting the transition, slowly switching over. So yeah, very, very important software. But when we go to submit a help desk ticket, those do go through, there it is, Ivy Learn and Tech. We go fill out this form, and this is related to CRM software. So it is critical software for the modern world. Definitely something to look into. And there are other applications where you could kind of use it in your daily life that would be useful. Some practical uses for it. That I'll drop that. Everybody nodded their head when I asked the question. So that mostly finishes up what I had on the list for this evening. I was actually thinking it would take about another 15 minutes. A short class, but I'm sure everybody's ready for the summer. You'll probably notice I think we might be about the only last ones on school. Last ones at school. Parking lot looks very empty. Everybody's ready for summer. I don't like to cancel classes. There's so much we could talk about. Right? In 8 weeks' time, I could stand up here like an auctioneer and talk as fast as I can and still barely make a dent in all this stuff there is to learn about IT. So I really don't like canceling classes. So I wanted to at least talk about it some. Remember some key points from this. Think back to the introduction, if you remember that first night. Informatics, I pulled up a picture about informatics, and what the label on this course is in one section we have like the software, the stuff we're running on the machine, and that connects to the hardware, the physical devices. And we have those, and that's what most of the study of IT is, one or the other of those. Informatics ties them together. So if we start drawing pictures, right, the software is going to have a bunch of that binary code of all of that going on there. The hardware is the physical device itself. I'll just draw my little laptop picture. And informatics is for the people. It makes it useful and applicable for the people that are going to use it. And part of doing that, if you remember way back at the beginning of the semester, one of the things we talked about was the scientific method, that rigorous methodology, rigorous pattern, so that we can be certain about what we do. Ask a question, or when you have an idea, put it in the form of a question that can be tested. Actually, you take your best guess at what the answer is, and then try as hard as you can to prove that is the wrong answer. Because we can never be certain about things, but we can be certain about what things are not. So we take our best guess at what the answer should be. In the case of informatics, maybe we're switching to a new CRM software. Y'all remember that example? We'd split up all the people that would be using it, get a control group and an experiment group, and the control group keeps using the old software. So for them, it's business as usual. New group uses the new CRM software. Then afterwards, we have a definitive answer about whether that switch is worth it or not. And if it is, we can make the transition or stick with the old method. But it gives us something definitive. That methodology on your way through school, and then your working career afterwards, will be very, very useful. So keep that in mind. This is America. People like to argue and debate. Y'all are well aware of that. So when we say the word science, that there's the debate portion of it, but the scientific method isn't part of that debate. The scientific method is just a process by which we can be confident in the things we say. So keep that in mind as you study IT, and then you work in IT afterwards. Make an observation, form a hypothesis, which is a testable guess, a testable answer to your question or your observation, and then actually perform the test to determine whether to reject or not reject your hypothesis. You never want to accept it, because there could always be a better way something better could come along in the future. But you want to determine if it's the best idea you can come up with for now, that sort of thing. That process will take you a long way on your way through education. Make sure you're always forming those hypotheses and testing to confirm that you're following the right hypothesis as you learn, and then as you work afterwards. So I'm going to wrap up with that. Does anybody have any questions about stuff?
I have a question on the discussion board one.
Yes.
How did you said you didn't want us to like post a file?
Yeah, please do it so that nobody has to download the file.
Yeah.
So
Can you go over how you do that?
So there's a couple ways. My recommendation, did you put together like slide deck?
Yeah, it's at home though, but.
So my recommendation would be just make a video of you going through that. But if you want to, just take a bunch of screenshots and post those screenshots in there.
And you can post the screenshot. It's not going to be like, oh, click here to download this PNG or JPEG.
Yeah, do not do that.
Yeah.
So if you use the embed button, you can put a picture in there.
state of precedent.
Yes.
Last time.
Yeah, you're a cybersecurity expert, so you know you understand hopefully you understand the reasons why I don't like.
I understand the reason, but I don't listen to my own philosophies.
Yes, that's
It's
it.
it's like, I don't trust this link, but I kind of have to click it though.
Yeah, part of the assignment, but yeah. I made that mistake sometimes. I keep forgetting, especially if I have to write Python files. And I accidentally send it to my teacher sometimes as a Python file and not a zip. So that was my fault.
Yeah, browsers freak out about that one. Every browser has that. It's like, oh, Python will run on every machine on earth. You can't from the text file.
Outlook absolutely
Yeah,
will search that.
they won't even let you. Outlook won't even let you attach it.
I was able to attach.
Oh, you were able to attach it.
Yeah.
If you change the extension, change it to .txt, you should be able to email it. But really, what you should do is put it on a repository and then send it to the repository.
Yeah.
Because that's the standard way to transfer code. So when we go put it in there, make sure you use this button to attach an image. So let me do a screenshot real quick. I'll do a screenshot of this window because that's a quick thing to click. And
The window.
I have to click, yeah.
Now I got my browser to, I gotta do the same old like flag stuff, because if I click download, it's something.
Yeah, so when you do it that way, it goes right in here. The other way, if you want to, since you have a slide deck and probably a presentation, at the very bottom of the green links, scroll down so you can see those, whoops. At the bottom, you will see Studio. This is some really nice screen capture software. I can't do it when I'm Zoom because the camera and the microphone are being used right now. We can hit record, and the very first time it'll download Screencast-O-Matic. And then you come back in here and hit record again, and some controls will pop up to do a screen capture. And then when you go over to post in the discussion board, I meant to open that in another tab so I can do it. It's the wrong glass, Leslie.
Yeah.
We're in the pink one. Did that last one post? Oh, it didn't post. But make sure, so if it's an image, make sure you use the embed button, not the attach button. And over here, the plugins. Oh, sorry, let me move those. Zoom up there. Over here on the plugin, the little plug button, it's all the applications that we can use in a thing. So you can link to other stuff. YouTube videos will show. So if you put it on YouTube, you can just embed the YouTube video automatically. Connect to the tour, upload and embed images. So there's a bunch of different things, but here's the button for Studio. And when you do this, it will embed your thing right there. So I'll just use the overview from the online class this week. If you leave display media tabs on, people can make comments, but it puts it right in there. And if you leave display media tabs on, your classmates can make comments right in the video instead of the replies afterwards. But that will embed it right in there.
All right.
Would it be okay to leave media tabs on for replies?
If you want to. Yeah, either way, since there is a reply part in this one. But you can turn them off and it's a discussion board, so the regular reply will still be there. Just please do not use this button. That's a security risk. I have a feeling before long that's going to be gone altogether. And the best we'll be able to do is it'll be replaced by like a preview on OneDrive button sort of thing within a couple of years. That is the closest. That was just an example. On something like that, you can preview the file online somewhere and then decide you can download it from there, and the attach button is probably going away because that can be such a security risk. Because like the Python thing, if you change it to a .txt file, it'll send, but it'll still run. Yeah, the extension is for the machine, and we can override that. We can say run this with Python, and it'll run it as long as there's valid Python code in there. If you're emailing the Python code to your teacher, it's probably because there's a question. So that one wouldn't necessarily run, but the valid parts of the code will run. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
And yeah, Just
Yeah.
avoid that security risk. We know it's there. It hasn't been removed yet, but that we know it's there, so we can stop using it now.
What to do, just like how to submit it.
Yeah, because it is a change, but we know it can be dangerous at times. Because just because an attachment says it's .pptx, a PowerPoint file, does not mean it's a PowerPoint file.
Yeah, because sometimes you'll see an mp3.exe files, weird thing about it.
Yes, or when you all were very young, and everybody's music collection moved from CDs to MP3s, or cassettes to MP3s.
I think that's
They were
above
shared.
my generation.
Yeah, LimeWire, sites like LimeWire.
I've only
Yeah,
ever heard of
I
that.
like it.
It's the file extension said .mp3, but it was sometimes it was 50-50 chance whether it was music or virus. So the file extension doesn't really mean anything. So please just make sure they can see it in the discussion board. And I did have that set so you can edit it. If not, you should have an edit button after you post. Any other questions? All right, you all have a wonderful summer. Thank you for making this such a great class. Hope to see y'all around soon.